Greetings, dear friends. We're sincerely glad to welcome you again. Today we will talk with the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov.
Hello.
Igor Mikhailovich, thanks to the previous conversation, we realized the responsibility of each person even more deeply, especially during this time period when the climate Cerberus is ruthless and when predictions of the prophets are coming true. As you said, unfortunately, humanity as a unit is so far implementing the worst-case scenario, while we can still implement the best one. But in order to do this, we need to realize what is happening, face the truth, look into the eyes of our children, become humans, and change a whole lot of things, so that life, the life of our children, becomes the greatest value. And you know, this topic, the topic of betrayal of children, which we touched upon last time, is very acute. You see, for many people, it is very difficult to face the truth and accept the fact that, unfortunately, when we turn away from reality, we betray our children and exchange their lives for some elementary peace and elementary comfort. But those people who have accepted this fact, recognized it, and discovered this attitude in themselves come up with a question: how could such a thing happen that we, society as a whole, reached the point when every person individually seems to be very caring, good, and positive, while as society as a whole, we turn away from this reality? Why did this happen to us? How did we come to it?
You know, the topic of children is always acute, especially relationships between parents and children. As a matter of fact, every parent considers himself good and worthy, and every child believes that he's not getting enough. Either his parents didn't pay attention to him, or they put pressure on him. And later on, something doesn't work out in his life. So, like any person, when a child becomes an adult, he looks for the causes of his failures. Most often, children blame their parents. That's natural. However, as parents, we still try to give our children everything that depends on us. Not everyone. There are those who don't care if their children exist or not. Such people are absolutely irresponsible, but there are very few of them. The vast majority are actually caring parents who strive to improve their children's lives. Yet, why does everything concerning children always hook people quite strongly, especially parents? It's an acute topic, but what we have said is true. And a person who has strength inside himself and who is able to face the truth actually recognizes this. Meanwhile, again, many people hide behind the label, I'm a good parent. I do everything for my child. But if we look from the side, good parents take care of their child. They take care of his health, of how he looks, and what he eats. They take care of all aspects of his education, involve him in various clubs, develop him in sports, science, or arts, and the child develops comprehensively. But do we really give protection to our children? And what is a good parent and a bad parent? A caring and an uncaring one? This question is always delicate. Psychologists have written many works on this subject, and they have a lot of disputes. But again, from the standpoint of psychology and real life, these are totally opposite things. Life and psychology. Psychologists give advice, but they themselves have problems with their children. This happens far and wide. Unfortunately, we've seen it many times, but instead, they advise us on how to behave correctly with our child and how to properly educate and develop him. Sometimes parents have difficulties even with communication and elementary understanding. And what do we fail to understand? A simple question. We don't understand that even when a child is little, he's an individual, and he is the way he is, no matter how we influence his character. He will still be who he will be. This is really so. In one family with the same upbringing, equal care, and love, children may be the exact opposites. Why? A simple question. Well, because they are different. That's the whole point. Even if we provide the same education and absolutely the same care, two different individuals will grow up anyway. each with their own destiny and their own understanding of this world because they are children. However, on the other hand, our goal and task as parents is to teach them to distinguish the good from the bad, to teach them to behave in a good way and not to do bad if it is possible, to provide education and, if possible, to help them develop in various ways, including in sports, maybe in arts or in science, if a child has such an aptitude. Meanwhile, we often try to turn children into someone we are not, blaming our parents at that, although in reality, we simply, well, let's just say we were born like this. It's not that we were unlucky, but it's just our nature. Our genetics and our own laziness prevented us from developing those qualities which we need in adulthood. That's how the world is arranged. But we can change this when we already begin to be more self-aware in adulthood. And when we understand that something is missing in us, we can change. We can re-educate ourselves. It's all in our hands. We can even change our character and attitude to development, to people, to science, and to everything. We can do everything. However, while we are little, we are developing and exploring the world. And the role of parents is tremendous because it's extremely difficult for a child to grow up without parents. Especially those who grew up without parents, they understand this perfectly well. How difficult this is. Or when it's a single-parent family, when there is no father or mother. It's hard for a child. He feels deprived, especially when his friends have two-parent families, care, and material well-being. Then it's hard for such kids. But the question that you and I have raised actually has to do with something completely different. Here, I would distinguish the understanding of a good and a bad parent in the following way. A good parent is the one who really cares about the future of a human being, his child, not in the sense of who he will grow up to be, but in the sense that he will have such an opportunity at all. After all, indeed, very serious changes are taking place with the climate today, and we are not ready for that. We are not ready to admit as parents that our child has no future. Nowadays, many people try to develop their children in various ways, to provide them with good education, to develop them as athletes, those who see prospects and a future in sports, or, on the contrary, in science or in music. A child is being taught to play the piano or the violin so that he develops in every way. But I have a question. Yes, it's all good, of course, but the simple question is, tell me, in the face of the climate, in the face of the changes that are happening and escalating, and it's already clear to everyone that things will only aggravate in the near future, who will have an advantage? Musicians or soccer players? I mean, really? Or will a child's knowledge of multiple languages save him from an earthquake in the rubble? Well, it's true, but we don't want to see that. We deny it. We deny what we cannot influence. There is a way out that gives us and our children a chance to survive in the near future, not sometime in 10,000 years or 100 years. God willing, we have another 10 years, God willing. But judging from the last year and this year, we see what is happening, and we perfectly understand that these 5 to 7 years are nothing at all. It's time that flies by quickly. And with that tendency of progression of climate change, imagine how many people will die in these next 5 to 7 years when catastrophic changes begin. It would seem that we cannot influence that. After all, it's nature. But again, why do we think so? It is learned helplessness. There's no other way to say it. In fact, being parents, we watch children die somewhere. There are wars and crimes. Someone just steals millions of children every year. They go missing and cannot be found. Plus, the climate. took a lot of children's lives this year. But that didn't affect us. Isn't that so? Let's take Hawaii. Kids were burning alive. Kids were burning. While we were playing with our kids and thinking about what class to take them to, how to develop them so that they would become someone in their future lives. But we didn't think about those kids who were burning. We did not think about those kids who were under the rubble when their houses collapsed. After all, we didn't hold their hands while staying alive ourselves, and we didn't see their lives fading away as we held our child's hand while it's getting cold, and we couldn't do anything because there was no one who could help. When I watched that footage, I've seen a lot of things, but it is still painful. I feel pain for that child. I feel pain for the parents, and I feel pain. Perhaps it's the worst pain of all, that there are parents who don't understand the entire seriousness of the current situation. There are parents who, in fact, do not care about their children. Yes, they give them everything, but they don't give them the key thing, a future. Because in order to give them a future, parents themselves need to take a sober look around and pay attention to the threats that are in fact present today. And instead of saying, I can't influence wars, I can't influence the climate, parents should understand one thing, that altogether, we can exert influence. Yes, we will have a chance, but if we are not all together, we will have no chance, neither we nor our children. Everyone's fate is already predetermined, and it doesn't matter what God you believe in, or what religion you involve your child in. Tell me, do Christians, Jews, or Muslims die differently? Or are they born differently? Or do they have different after-death destinies? That's the answer for you as to what religions are. God sent His messengers. God is one. Yes, the messengers were different, but they talked about the same things. Yet we have created from this teaching, from the will of our God, lots of religions that have divided us, which we used to manipulate each other for thousands of years. And in the end, even now, in the face of global, catastrophic changes in this world, in the face of the threat to the existence of all humankind, we remain slaves. Slaves of our consciousness, slaves of our habits, and slaves of our neighbors' opinions about us. But we forget that we are parents. We forget about our personal responsibility for the lives of our children and the fact that we give everything. We are ready to throw ourselves into the fire for our child, but we do not see and do not recognize the reality simply because we have become soulless. We have become indifferent to other people's grief, which supposedly we cannot influence, but we actually can. We can build a world in which the life of a child will be the highest value. To do so, we just need to understand, realize, and truthfully look at the climate changes that are already happening. I'm not talking about politics. Politics is people, and they can solve problems, stop wars, and so on somehow. But even the wars that take the lives of children shouldn't be happening. It's not right. If somebody wants to fight, well, if men want to fight with each other, then go out into the battlefield and settle your issue. Don't involve women and don't involve children. Modern warfare is such that everything is erased, and nobody values the lives of other people. Being able to take other people's lives, I think it is unworthy. Unworthy of a warrior or a human being. Unworthy of a man or a woman to take the lives of other people. It's just that we have forgotten what God has told us. A human can take another person's life, but he cannot give it back. And for every person whose life we take, we will be held accountable. It's true. We have no right to decide who should live and who should die. But when we take on the function of God, we exalt ourselves too much. It's true. Yes, we can. We can organize wars. We can take someone's life. We can, because that's the way this world is arranged. But the point is actually that we should have mercy in us. We should have humaneness in us. However, when something like this happens, and we as parents understand that we cannot influence or change anything, we hide, just hide, in an illusion of caring for the child, for his health. We want him to be well-fed, well-dressed, and get a decent education. But what is this education for? And how will it affect him in the near future? That's the answer. It's true. The same is true about religion. We fail to see the simple fact that there are no holy places in this world. Everywhere, all holy places are already undergoing serious climate change. However, if they were holy, truly holy, could such destruction be happening there? Of course not. Could those places be destroyed? After all, they are holy. What is holiness? And who is holy? God. The spiritual world is holy. The prophets who were here are holy because they gave us an opportunity to gain life eternal. They conveyed the will of our God so that we would become human beings, so that we would stop killing each other, so that we would learn to love and respect each other, so that we would be united, and so that we would build a world in which children would neither disappear or perish. And we can do that. But do we have the strength to do that? Do we have the strength to understand that we can do that with our learned helplessness? Based on all that, what kind of parents are we? After all, it's easier not to hear what I'm saying now, to reject or insult me, to be outraged and to turn away. Yet will it save your child? Will your child have a future? It is your indignation and your rejection of the verity of that truth which is already a reality today. Yes, 10 years ago, it was still possible to turn away from that. It was possible not to admit it, to laugh at it. But you won't laugh anymore because it's already becoming a reality. We can see how actively and how fast this climate apocalypse is advancing. And we are in it with our children. So how should we react? So who is a good parent? And who is a bad parent? The one who cares about the future of their children, about their lives? Or the one who brags to his neighbors, friends, and relatives about how he takes care of his child, what kind of education he provides him with, and what kind of future he has planned for him? Answer for yourselves what is important to you. And is your child really important to you? This truth is unpleasant. It is unpleasant because it is true. We can, and we do it easily. We can influence simple things, such as our child's education, the way he is dressed, what he eats. And we do it, but we can influence, so far we can, whether he will have a future or not. And that's when all our responsibility as parents disappears. We stop being fathers and mothers. We just become indifferent people because we deny. We don't want to admit that climate change is already a real threat. And in order to remove this threat, at least a little bit, to reduce it, or even better, to eliminate it completely. We have to change this world. We have to make the life of our children the highest value in this world. We can do it, but we can only do it together, not through fighting each other or killing each other, but through uniting. Uniting based on something simple, on the lives of our children, and on the future of all humanity. That is the reality. No matter how much we want it to be otherwise, but if we don't do this, we will have no future. Our children will have no future. No matter what religion they belong to. Answer a simple question. If, for instance, you, my friend, attend a synagogue, as you are supposed to, tell me, if your apartment is on the 9th floor, for example, and during an earthquake your house collapses, will your apartment remain intact, hanging in the air? Will Yahweh save you? A simple question. After all, you are doing everything as you are supposed to. The same questions apply to representatives of other religions as well. Yes, many people will say, it is the will of God or Allah. As He wills, so it shall be. Tell me, does God want children to die? Does God want us and our children to suffer? Does God want us to kill each other? Recall the words of our prophets. Recall what they told us. After all, they said, do not kill. They said, love and respect each other. Take care of each other. But what do we do? And this truth sounds very unpleasant and painful to many people these days. And we as parents are not able to realize the full threat, the real threat that exists today for the future of our children. We are not able, in fact, we are not able to fathom the full scale, the catastrophic scale of climate change. Not because we're not smart enough, no, because we're hiding from these facts. We do not recognize them. We put it off until later. Even if we found ourselves in the epicenter of some events, but they passed and we survived, it means that everything will be fine. It won't happen again. A missile doesn't hit the same place twice. The same as in this case. There was an earthquake, and now everything is fine. Yet, look at Afghanistan. Look at what is happening there. Look at Turkey, and what those poor people have been through. Look at other parts of the world. What has happened only during this year? Can anyone give you a guarantee that tomorrow you and your child will be as safe as you are now? Nobody will give you that guarantee. Do you know why? Because as parents, we do not take responsibility for the lives, the future lives of our children. But if we were truly caring parents, we would not be afraid of this. We would take this responsibility onto ourselves. And we would do everything to save our child's life. We would study everything that is happening with the climate. We ourselves would calculate, understand, realize, and act as we should act as parents. Then, all the acuity of this issue would fade into the background because we would act like sensible adults and caring for our children and other children. After all, there are no someone else's children. While sometimes we pass by the suffering of others. In fact, many of us have passed by a person lying on a pavement, and our consciousness said to us, that man is drunk. It's none of our business. We have also passed by when children were suffering, and when other people were suffering. But why do we do that? We don't want to get involved in other people's lives. Tell me, if such indifference to the misfortune of others prevails in society, who will come to the aid of your child? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Igor Mikhailovich.
Thank you, friends. Peace be with you and God's love.